that I would turn on my camera and record what happened. I recently signed up to test the Seashore Skirt designed by Brianna Lupino of The Little Wolf Knits, and I decided to use 2 of Bree's no-waste sock blanks to make my skirt. I decided to helically knit them. One of the blanks was a deep blue and one was a deep green with some other tonal colors kind of thrown in there. And I decided to helically knit them together and kind of create this one-of-a-kind melding of the 2 colors into its own unique colorway. However, as I was going along, things were going great. I was doing wonderful. I got all the way through my increases, and then I remembered that there are short rows in this pattern. So when you're helically knitting, it can only be done in the round, and short rows are knit flat. Now, I kind of sat with this information for a little while, put the skirt on hold, trying to decide what I wanted to do. And then when I was ready to tackle it, I turned on my camera so that I could take you along with me. So first things first, this is not a tutorial. You might get some ideas, but this is not meant to actually teach you anything. This does not have specifics for the skirt pattern. I highly recommend that you go check it out and purchase it for yourself because it's a wonderful pattern and I love my finished product. But this will not be including any specifics from the pattern other than the fact that there are short rows in it, which isn't really that much of a secret. Secondly, there will not be a tutorial for helical knitting or short rows in this video. Yes, I will mention some of the basic principles of both of those techniques, but if you don't already have a foundation for those, you are probably not ready to try what I'm going to be showing, and there are some things that might not make much sense to you throughout this video. That's okay. If you don't know them, there are plenty of videos out there that will teach you, but this video is not one of them. This video is meant as a way to kind of help people, right? I thought that I would turn on my camera and record what happened, and if it was a mess, maybe I could share that or just pretend it never happened. And if something good came out of it, then I could share so that maybe someone in the future who wanted to do something similar could follow along with what I did. Spoiler alert, it was a success. I love my skirt. It worked. I don't know if what I did is technically correct, but it worked. And I am happy to show it to you. I also wanted to note that because I'm using the sock blanks, the yarn had been pre-knit, so it had held on to a lot of that memory of being in stitches. So the yarn's not going to look like it typically would in tutorial videos or videos like this. It's going to be quite squiggly, and sometimes you might see me getting a little bit tangled or struggling with resetting my tension repeatedly. And that's just because of the nature of what I was working with. There's nothing wrong with the yarn. There's nothing that I'm struggling with in the pattern. I'm just pretty particular about the way that I hold my yarn. And one other note that I might get questions about is throughout this video, the video is just me of my hands. I am wearing a brace on my thumb, and that is because I have hypermobility in a majority of my joints, but specifically when I am knitting, the way that I hold my needles and push my stitches up onto the needle, after just a few minutes without that brace on stabilizing my joint, I will get a lot of pain. So if you're wondering what that is, that's what it's there for. And without further ado, let's get into the video and then we'll talk about some more specifics with a try-on at the end. All right, so I'm going to be working on my short rows for my Seashore Skirt from the Little Wolf Knits. And I wanted to film this because I've been doing helical knitting for the whole process. And I wanted to try and figure out how I'm going to handle the short rows in this, because short rows are knit flat and I have been doing helical knitting in the round. And in order to do these single strikes flat, I would have to cut my yarn constantly. So we're going to try something and we'll try it together and see how it works out. So first thing I'm going to do is get myself set up so that I'm where I need to be at the beginning of the round. Because I've been helically knitting, I have this green attached here that is, I'm currently just at the beginning of the round with the green, but then over here I have the blue that is attached. So basically I'm one row ahead of the blue with the green. So I started the helical knitting by knitting one, where is it? By knitting one round with the green, and then I added in the blue. So for clarity's sake, I guess we can say that my odd rows are in the green and my even rows are in the blue. So right now I've done one extra row of the green and I need to finish a row with the blue. So basically what's going to happen is I have to slip these stitches so that I can get to where the blue is and then finish out the round in the blue. So here we go. Let's do it. Okay, so now I am right where my blue was attached, and all I'm going to do is knit myself back to the beginning of the round, and I will come back in a moment. Okay, I have knit back to the beginning of the round with my blue, and I just have 2 stitches past the beginning of the round marker with my green, just because I like to always get a little bit past the marker just to keep it secure so I'm not losing track of it. So now my green, that is, let's call it color number 1, right? So I'm going to take that and use it to start my short rows. So now I'm going to start with the first row of the short row instructions in the pattern and see how it goes. Here we go. Okay, here we go. So I am at the point where I am ready to turn and do my first German short row and start purling. So what I'm thinking is that it won't be super noticeable if I end up doing 2 rows of green and then 2 rows of the blue. So we're going to try it and see what happens. So here we go. I'm going to turn and purl back and just follow the instructions in the pattern to figure out my next short row. Okay, wish me luck. I'm a pretty slow purler, so I think we're just gonna come back when I have gotten to the next instruction. Okay, so I think this is gonna work. I think I'm gonna be okay with it. So, I have cat hair flying everywhere. What I've done is essentially, now I have 2 rows of the green, whereas before it's just been green, blue, green, blue, green, blue. But I think that it's gonna be fine. I think that with a few repetitions of 2 rows of green, 2 rows of blue, it'll be okay. The short rows in this pattern only create about 1/2 inch, but I need a little extra room in the back area. So I think I might do maybe another 2 or even 4 rows of the short rows to give myself a little bit of extra space. So what needs to happen now is I have my blue, try not to lose this stitch marker. I have my blue still attached over here at the beginning of round. Where is it? Yeah, my stitch marker is there. My blue is, here we go, over here. And I think I'm going to cut it and reattach. So there might be an easier way to do this. Maybe I could knit around and then somehow pick up in the helical knitting pattern again. But I think what I'm going to do is give myself a couple extra ends to weave in just for peace of mind. I'm going to cut this blue where it is, reattach it at the beginning of my short rows, and then I will see what has to happen when I'm done with the short rows, and I will figure out how to get back into my helical knitting then. So here we go. Oh, I really hope this is the right idea. Okay, that tail is cut. And here we go. I'm ready to get going with my next German short row. I know this one is probably going to be a little bit yucky looking because of the loose tail that I'll have here, but I can use the tail when I'm weaving it in to tighten things up. So how are we going to do this? So I'm going to use my green to actually create the double stitch. So I'll pull that around, and then maybe to help myself with the tension for that first stitch, I will use the green for it. We're discovering this all together. I have no idea what I'm doing. I'm making this up as I go along, but that feels right. It feels right to do that first stitch in the green because I need that extra tension from that double stitch. And I don't think it'll look weird having that little extra blip of green there. Okay, so now I will join in my blue and get knitting. Knit my way across. And I'm just going to follow the directions written for my pattern and follow what it says to do, where it says to turn. The one annoying thing about helical knitting, right? The yarn management can get interesting. Okay. Back to our knitting. Okay, so I am personally very bad at reading my double stitches. For some reason, I always have to get like a really close look and make sure that I'm looking at what I think I'm looking at. But I believe I am ready to turn. So here we go. I'm going to go back with my blue, make that double stitch, and purl and follow my directions on where to stop. I don't know if I've still like, I don't know if I've really perfected my German short row tension yet. I feel like those double stitches, sometimes I'm too tight, sometimes I'm too loose. I'm getting there. They're definitely something, oh my gosh, I'm having trouble with getting into my stitches today. Yeah, the double stitches are something that I'm still working on, that tensioning. I feel like I can't find my sweet spot. Okay, here we are. So I am right before my last double stitch because at the start of my blue row, I made my double stitch with the green. So actually, that's right. I did, oh boy, there's a lot of yarn right here. Okay, so I did my double stitch in green, and then I did the next stitch in the green as well to secure it. So I needed to knit one more, or purl one more stitch. And actually, now that this is working up a little bit and I can see it some more, I'm thrilled. I feel like this is going to be great. No one's going to be able to really point out that there's this slightly larger strip of the green in there. So let's continue. And again, making this up as I go. So I just finished my blue. I need to start my green next. I think I'm going to make my double stitch with my blue like I did last time with the green, because I think that will help keep things nice and secure. So here we go. I'll make that double stitch. Move things around. I always have to like resituate my yarn after the double stitches. And then I will knit that next stitch in the blue as well to secure it. So now it's time for my green, and my green was last used over here. So I'm basically going to have a float, I guess, like I would with color work. So I think I'm just going to make sure I leave it nice and loose. I do have this tail from my blue yarn that I can use to tighten things up if I need to. So I'm going to go really nice and loose and make sure that I have plenty of room for a float behind that. I'm probably going too much, but I get so nervous and I'm really quite bad at color work, to be completely honest. My floats are horrible. So we're going to go with it, and I will use the tail to tidy things up as I always do. Okay, here we go. Back to the other side. Okay, ready for the next double stitch. So I didn't even realize that this was going to happen, but it's handy. My double stitch is in the green and the stitch next to it is in blue. So as I'm approaching my double stitch, I know where to stop because I'm using my green. My last double stitch over here is in green. So I know that I need to stop, or I know that I'm approaching it when I see my final blue stitch coming up. So here we go. Let's turn. This side is pretty standard and easy because we don't have our color changes happening over here. So we can just do the double stitch and purl away. Okay, we are back on the side where the color change happens, and over here, because I've been choosing to knit the next stitch in the same color, I don't have that signal like I had over on the other side where the double stitch was one color and the stitch next to it was the next color. But that's okay. I can read my double stitches. So I have my double stitch here. I have one stitch next to it, and I'm ready to change colors. So here we go. I'm going to do, whoops, bring my yarn forward, do my double stitch with my green, and then knit my next stitch just to secure in that tension. And now I need my blue, and I'm going to make a nice big long float behind those couple of stitches. Make sure that I have a lot of yarn to work with behind my stitches and keep things nice and loose. All right, so I think that this is going to be my last set. I'm going to go to the other side, do one last double stitch over there, and turn and do one last row of my blue, and then we will figure out how to get back into the round in this. Okay, we are getting there. So I have my double stitch, and my last stitch next to it is my green. So now, oh no. Oh no. Oh my goodness, what an absolute mess I just made. I just dropped a whole bunch of stitches. That was terrifying. I highly recommend Very Pink Knits, I believe, has a tutorial on how to pick up dropped double stitches. Whew, it is very stressful. I just dropped every single one I did, and I did not want to redo that. But anyway, so I can double check. I have a double stitch in my blue, and then I have a green stitch. I have a double stitch in my green, and I have a blue stitch. I have a double stitch in my blue, and I have a green stitch. I might have stretched some things out. It might not be perfect over here. All the stitches that I need are there, but they might be kind of stretched and angry with me at this point in time. But if I need to, I'll just take a piece of scrap thread or one of my tails and just kind of tighten things up. That's my favorite way to fix things, is just use my tails and tighten things up. Okay. Whew, that was really stressful. Back to wrapping this up. So I am going to make one last double stitch with my blue on this side. And purl across. And then I think I'm going to take a look at this and think for a second before I come back and tell you what I'm going to do next. Be right back. Okay, so I am ready for my next short row, or creating my next double stitch. And I've been thinking, I think what's going to happen is like I started at the beginning, I have my green that is, I guess, like my main color, my color 1 that I have on the front of my skirt coming around before I started the short rows. Then I went back and forth with my green and blue. Now I have the blue. I have to turn, and now I'm going to be heading back into the round. So I think, since I'm coming from the green over here, I think I'm going to pick back up with the green until I get back to the beginning of the round. And then, because I have a green row here, I'm going to reattach my blue and head into my next round with the blue. So I guess if you are going to do this on your own, what could work, if you're confident you have enough yarn, is over here, instead of cutting my blue, I could have left that attached and then maybe worked from a separate piece of yarn, or maybe work from the other end of my cake to do my short rows back and forth. And then as I came across with the green and get back to the beginning of the round, now my blue would already be attached here and ready to go. I don't mind having the extra ends to weave in for my own, peace of mind and for trying to like figure this out and make sure that it's going to work. So yeah, I think that's what we're going to do. But I think next time, sorry, these needles are making a lot of noise. I think next time I might be able to leave that yarn attached. Fun. All right, let's do this. In the final stretch. So I've just finished with my blue. I'm ready to turn and make my double stitch. I'm gonna do that with my blue like I've been doing. Okay, so here we go. Last double stitch being made. Go. Gonna knit that next stitch to help secure it. And now I'm going to pick up my green. Give myself a nice super long float. Knit my way across all the way to the beginning of round. And this will be the first time that I'm encountering any double stitches that need to be resolved. So we will see together how that looks with the color changes. I have no idea. I feel like it's going to be fine and it's not going to bother me at all. But yeah, we'll discover it together in just a minute. All right. I'm approaching my double stitches that I need to resolve. So I'm going to slow down a little bit, make sure I get everything correct, and make sure that I don't drop stitches over here like I did before. Okay, so now I'm at my beginning of round, and I think things are looking pretty good. I'm going to go over here and break my blue yarn. Hopefully this is a good decision. And I'm going to reattach it over here at the beginning of round. Now from here on, I know that I broke my yarn right at the beginning of the round, and now I'm reattaching yarn right at the beginning of the round. From here on out, I will approach it all with helical knitting, meaning that before I get to the next color, I will slip 3 stitches and then pick up the next color. But for right here, I'm just joining them at exactly the same place. And if there's any gap or anything, I will use the ends to fix it. Okay, so I'm gonna knit one more round all the way around, and then we can take a look at how things are looking. Maybe I'll go a little bit past the round just so that you can see where my helical change is. And then we can do a try on and see how it's going. Okay, sorry if the angle is suddenly different. We just had a hullabaloo and my camera fell over. But anyway, I knit all the way around to the beginning. I did my helical switch right before the beginning of round. I knit a little bit past just to get everything secured, and I think it's looking fantastic. I think, I'll show you over on the other side too. Sorry, those needles make so much noise. I think it looks great. I don't think it will be very obvious that there's a slightly larger stripe of each color here. I have this tail over here, or 2 tails over here that I can use to tighten things up a little bit, but I don't even think they need it that much. I will knit a little bit further and then maybe insert a picture so that you can see how things look once it's kind of worked a little bit more and everything's kind of merged together, I think it's going to be great. I'm so happy that this worked out. And look at that. We figured out a new technique together. Hilariously, my short rows ended up happening at a spot where both skeins hit a kind of brighter section, so I can easily tell where they are, but they are not noticeable at all when it's on. I know I said that I was going to do a few more rows and then check in with a try-on, but I finished my skirt. So it's been a few days. Once I got past those short rows, I just flew. Everything was just cruising right along and I finished it. I couldn't stop. So I'm probably going to readjust. I'll give you a quick little turnaround and then I'm going to readjust and come back to talk. Okay, so I am going to insert some footage and images of the a close-up of the short rows and how it turned out, and as well as finished photos of me wearing the skirt. It's kind of weird and impossible to show you the back of my skirt where I have the short rows while talking to you. It's just weird. So I'm gonna insert a bunch of stuff over here. But I want to wrap up with a couple things that I learned from this. One, I would probably not try the technique that I used where I was creating floats along the back of the stitches. I would probably use the same like general rule that people tend to use for color work, and so maybe no more than 5 or 6 stitches between turns for those floats. You know, if you have a pattern where you're working on something with like 10 stitches in between German short row turns, I probably wouldn't risk that, or maybe I would find a way to secure that float somehow. Maybe that's an adventure for another project. Secondly, I learned that I mean, I guess I probably could have thought this through beforehand, but when I turned and worked my wrong side, my German short rows were exactly like they normally are because I had worked across with my new color and I was just turning and moving back. So the only times I had to deal with the color changes or anything funky was only when I was doing my turn and then going to work my right side. So that's kind of nice. You know, you only have one spot where you really have to think about it, and then you just, you know, go through your short rows however your pattern tells you to, whatever stitch counts, and just do them as normal. And then you come back to your right side and you have to think that through again. The other thing that I would not really caution about, but I think is important to mention is my 2 yarns have very low contrast. And even some of the 2 sock blanks, the blue and the green, almost had some of the same tones at certain points throughout them. So they really blended together well and almost in the end look like one yarn. They look like they could be one colorway. So if this was a really high contrast project, it's not that I don't think that this would work, but I think it's definitely something to think about and make sure that you're okay with the way it will look. Because in mine, doing 2 rows of each color during the short row section is barely noticeable at all. But you know, if you're doing black and white helical knitting and then you suddenly switch to 2 rows, it might be a little bit more obvious. Not bad, just different. So definitely something to consider if you're doing high contrast stuff. Other than that, I really think that it was a success. I mean, I had to do some tightening of things just for my own personal, I like things to look neat and tidy. There were no issues. There were no holes or wonky areas. I just used the tails to tighten things up at the end, like I would with any project wherever I had an end. So I think it was a big success, and I hope that maybe this inspired you to try something new with one of your projects. And also let me know if you know of a real way to do this out there. If there is an actual technique for what I just made up, let me know. I'd love to learn it. I tried doing a little bit of research on this before diving into it on my own, and I couldn't find anything that was really helpful to me, which is why I wanted to record it and put it online in case it would help anyone else. But if you know of a way, or if you do this same thing but in a different way, definitely let me know. That's why the internet is great, right? We can all help each other out and figure out ways around things and approach techniques in different ways. So please, please, please let me know if you give this a try. I would really love to see it. I hope that I helped someone out there or inspired someone to try something new. I will see you in another video. If you do want me to actually turn something like this into more of a real tutorial with helical knitting and German short rows, or separate videos for each or whatever, let me know. I'm happy to. This was honestly me just turning on the camera and seeing what happened. So on that note, take care of you. I will see you in another one. Bye-bye.